Jake here for the Big Ranch Show. I figured I'd give you my reaction to last night's debate between Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton. If you ask me, it was one of the worst debates I've ever watched. One, you had a man who constantly was yelling over his opponent, didn't bother to listen to anything they had to say, nor did he even care if he was telling the truth. Fact checkers checked both sides, and as I was seeing it, or as I see it, most of the truth came from Hillary Clinton, although there were parts that Donald Trump had to say that made sense. His opposition to the TPP and NAFTA um, were valid points. I think both trade deals are bad for the American worker. And yes, Bill Clinton signed NAFTA, but overall, Bill Clinton did a decent job as president. I don't think one bad trade deal is really epitomizes what Bill Clinton was as a president. Nor do I think it has any effect on what kind of president Hillary Clinton can be. I believe Hillary Clinton to be a good president. I really do. I think she has the experience needed. I don't believe it's bad experience, as Donald Trump puts it, but she has experience, world experience, dealing with other nations, making deals with other nations, and making things that work. But Donald Trump had a lot of good ideas when it comes to the TPP and NAFTA and how they both are bad ideas. He agreed on a lot of things Hillary Clinton had to say when it came to justice reform and things like that and taxes. He's totally the opposite direction. I think, all in all, if you took away the racist component that Trump has spewed for the last 9 months to a year or so, you would see a man who could probably be a good president. But the problem is his temperament and the way he acts is just not presidential. You can't go around with a chip on your shoulder being president. You can't go around having an ill-fitting temperament and being in control of the nuclear launch codes. That is scary. You ask me though, it was a laughing stock. It was just snide remarks back and forth. That's all it was. It wasn't much of a debate. Whenever Hillary Clinton would say something, he would talk over her about it. Whenever he'd say something that was either not true or whatever, she'd get real snarky, and she just she just kind of she didn't look all that presidential at times. Sometimes she seemed very childish, just like he seemed very childish. You know, it was just a mud smear. Is all it was. It was this mudslinging campaign. That's all the entire thing was. How much mud can you sling at the other person before the time limit's up? I think the moderator did a decent job. I mean, I think he could have done a little better job, maybe keeping things, going. But you know, it's not necessarily, I guess, his job to keep everything in line all the time. Donald Trump, though, in his constant remarks of, about Ford and the lie he keeps spreading there, saying that Ford is sending its small business or small car um, stuff to Mexico and firing 1,200 workers, or was it 12,000 workers? He said, I think it's 1,200 workers. He said they were going to fire. When Ford came out 2 or 3 weeks ago saying, "No, Mr. Trump, this is not happening. They are sending the small car division to Mexico, partly because Americans aren't buying small cars as much as they were a year or two ago, but also that those 1,200 workers are not being fired; they're being reassigned to other parts of the plant to to build on other cars. At least that's what the Ford person said a few weeks ago. Now, he was right that Carrier air conditioners decided they would move to Mexico, and that was after receiving funds from the federal government to stay here, and they chose not to. So you can't tell me that there's anything you can do to stop a corporation from leaving, because we have corporations paying almost 0% in tax rate, using loopholes and different tax deductions, and they have a negative tax rate, some of them. Yet they want to ship their jobs overseas, saying that the tax rates are too high. How are the tax rates too high when you're paying a negative to zero tax rate? Answer me that. Now, they both were honest about small business and the fact that small businesses um, are dealing with too much regulation, too many taxes. I think that is a very true statement from Mr. Trump, and Hillary pretty much supports the same idea. She wants to keep taxes and regulations low for small business. You know, major corporations like GE and Walmart, sure, she does want them to pay more in taxes because a lot of them are paying zero tax rates. GE, 5 out of the last 7 years, has paid a zero or less tax rate. But my reaction overall is that, Lord help us, because if either one of those people that we saw last night want to be president of the United States, we are in for a mess. As one of the YouTubers that I watch ever so often, you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. It's really pathetic because I've supported Hillary Clinton for years, but what I saw last night was not presidential from either candidate. I couldn't help but think it was a comedy routine. I spent most of my time laughing. After the first 5 or 10 minutes, I almost gave up and almost quit watching entirely because all I could do was hear this man yelling and hollering and sniffing over Secretary Clinton. If you ask me, that's pathetic. Follow the debate rules. A debate is not a shouting match. It should not be just a mudslinging match. It should be something about ideas and policies, not, oh, 20 years ago this person did this, or 20 years ago this person did this, or over the last 8 years Donald Trump has been a bigot to President Obama, and Hillary Clinton screwed up some emails. I didn't want to hear about that. We already knew that. What about new information? What about conversations about your actual policies, Mr. Trump and Mrs. Clinton? I would love to actually have heard policy last night. But anyhow, have a good day. That's been my reaction to the first debate of 2016, and I hope you have a good day. Sorry for the dog in the background.